The Toronto Maple Leafs have made a bit of a surprising signing another right-handed shot defenseman. This signing came out of nowhere. The Leafs were not linked to him in the past, and this changes the Maple Leafs blue line next year and could also mean that Timothy Liljegren is on his way out of Toronto. So I'm going to break all that down in this episode and discuss how this impacts the rest of the Leafs offseason. So stay tuned for that. But before we break down all this crazy news along with the signing, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you're a part of the percentage that aren't subscribed, it would mean the world to Darius and myself if you could hit that button. Darius, a very surprising signing just happened. The Leafs were not linked to this guy at all. I don't remember one single report linking the Toronto Maple Leafs to this right-handed shot defenseman. But now this changes a lot of things. They obviously re-signed Timothy Liljegren the other day, and now they brought in another right-handed shot defenseman. So could that mean that he is on the way out? I'm super curious to see what you think about this guy. You can see from Elliot Freeman here. Hakanpaa, 2 years, $1.5 million. Very exciting a name, very fun name to say. But Darius, I want to get your thoughts on this. Leafs fans seem very happy, albeit quite surprised that they got this guy late into the free agency period today around 4 Eastern.
I think fans are only, skeptical and weirded out by this deal because they're not sure what's going to happen now with Liljegren and Connor Timmins. A lot of people have forgotten about Connor Timmins, who's still on the team as well. So what does this move mean for them? Because the move itself is very good. I like this player, 6'7". He's not going to bring you any offense, okay? And I think that's totally fine. He's a defensive defenseman. And yeah, he played on the Dallas Stars last year. He was very effective for them. And right shot defenseman helps the Leafs again. Like I said, it's a good move. Low risk too, 2 years, 1.5. Can't really go wrong with that. I don't see how it wouldn't work out because of what he brings to the lineup. So I think it's a pretty good move. And I wonder what this means for some of the other Leafs now.
Yeah, for one, Timothy Liljegren, could he be on the way out? Maybe. But Darius, I also want to bring up the fact that the Leafs have still yet to sign a forward to replace Tyler Bertuzzi, and they're using up more of their cap. Obviously, you can go 10% over the cap, but moves are coming. More moves are absolutely coming for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I could see a world now, an even stronger possibility that not only maybe Timothy Liljegren getting traded, but Nick Robertson, of course, as well to help relieve some of the cap space. Still have David Kampf, Cal Yarncroc, all these guys, but Yanni Hakanpaa, we'll dive into him a little bit here. He's big, he's tough, and he hits everything. I don't know. I'm super happy with this deal. But again, the bigger question surrounding it, yes, he's a very good player. He's going to slide probably into the third line pairing. But what happens with Timothy Liljegren now if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs? Do you move on from Liljegren? Do you trade to open up cap space? They literally just re-signed him. He came out today and spoke out about how it was an easy choice to go to Toronto. So a trade seems not unlikely necessarily, but a bit weird. Maybe they saw this guy, this player available, and said, hey, let's just take a swing for it and figure out the rest later. But they still have so many holes to fill. Not a ton, but some pretty glaring ones. Bertuzzi's gone. Nick Robertson is going to end up being gone because he requested a trade. Like, what do they do from here regarding their forwards and Timothy Liljegren? That's the question, and I'm not exactly sure, and I'll dive into Hakanpaa some more in a second, but it's a bit concerning.
Something is a little weird about this. They do still need forward help. And like we've covered yesterday, Nick Robertson has requested a trade, right? And what happens with Timothy Liljegren? Like you said, he did media today and he was talking about how he's happy to be back and he was happy to get a deal done. But this makes no sense. They have way too many defensemen at this point. Riley and Tanev are your first pairing.
Yeah.
That's done. They just signed Benoit. I don't really see them moving off of this player just yet. I think they like him. McCabe's not going anywhere. He's a great player on a great value contract. Now you have all these players. You have Liljegren, you have Hakanpaa. They just signed OEL this morning. What's happening with that? Obviously, you want depth, but if you're signing Hakanpaa for depth, I just don't see that Liljegren deal making any sense at this point. So a trade probably has to come. If you look at cap friendly too, they're in overage now. So they're over the cap right now, which is fine because the season hasn't started, but that means something has to happen. And obviously I just mentioned Nick Robertson. He could be on the way out. Timothy Liljegren, if you trade both those players, now you get about $4 million in relief. So that's always an option. They need help up front too. They didn't address the forward group at all in free agency yet. I absolutely love what they did the rest of the way, right? With the defense and goaltending, but they haven't touched the offense, and that was an issue. So something has to give here. Obviously, they're in overage, so something is happening. And could it be Mitch Marner? I don't know, but it didn't seem likely in the last 48 hours, but it could be. It could be someone else too. It could be Nick Robertson or Timothy Liljegren. Something's not adding up, and it's pretty interesting.
I really like the move, though. I really like Brad Schilling's moves so far in general. And you mentioned it, and we've discussed it in the stream and previous videos about Timothy Liljegren potentially getting traded. Him signing that contract that was 2 years at 3 million AAV. That contract is a lot more tradable than having to go through the process of if they would have just gave him the qualifying offer and just didn't extend him. So now maybe even though Timothy Liljegren was under the impression he's going to be here for the next 2 years. Maybe they now are signing Yanni Hakanpaa because they want and they know they're going to trade out Timothy Liljegren. And you mentioned that they're over the cap. Of course, they're over the cap. Doesn't matter right now because the season hasn't started. They're over the cap without having a Tyler Bertuzzi replacement. And I can't see a world where they let Tyler Bertuzzi walk, they trade Nick Robertson, and then they don't sign another guy. Now, could this mean a Mitch Marner trade is incoming to Vegas, to some other team? It's also possible, and that's how they recoup a couple forwards back and they work on some of the salary and the cap with that. But I don't know. I think this is all signs are pointing to bigger moves coming, and we'll have another video on that tomorrow morning, I would assume. But I mean, touching on Hakanpaa a bit more, like, I love it. I really love the deal. He's going to be a guy, and we kind of mentioned how the Leafs were targeting Nikita Zadorov a lot and things like that. I'm not saying they're the same player; they play super alike, but I mean, I think I would personally rather Hakanpaa at 2 years at 1.5 versus giving Zadorov 5 years or 6 years, $5 million, especially when they also got Oliver Ekman-Larsson at a very friendly cap hit as well. Like, you're getting a couple players that are both winners to a degree. Like, obviously, Oliver Ekman-Larsson won the Stanley Cup. He played with the Stars last year. The Stars made a deep run. They're getting winning players who played on cultures and teams that have won in the past and made some sort of playoff run last year, deeper than the Toronto Maple Leafs did. So, makes all the sense in the world to me, minus the fact that why on earth did they give Timothy Liljegren the $3 million if they were going to bring in Yanni Hakanpaa? That doesn't make sense, but I think it does make sense in maybe 24 to 48 hours from now when Liljegren or Nick Robertson or both are no longer a Leaf.
Yeah, obviously some smoke still has to clear for us to see everything clearly because they're over the cap. Like, something has to give here. There's going to be a trade, and Nick Robertson has requested a trade, so that's probably going to happen. But like you mentioned too, these guys that they've signed today, a lot of them are coming from winning cultures, winning the Stanley Cup, including your backup goalie now in Anthony Stolarz, right? They're coming from winning cultures and teams that take winning seriously. And that's one thing Chris Tanev even said this morning too, that, one thing that was enticing to come to Toronto is that Craig Berube is a coach now. He's won the Stanley Cup and he's kind of no nonsense. He really wants to win. So it is going to make a difference. I've been saying for a long time, the Leafs need to get more guys who've won the Stanley Cup on the roster. And they didn't do that with this move specifically, but Hakanpaa comes from a culture where winning is important. Dallas is always in the mix, right? Every year, maybe conference final or second round. So he is a big part of that. He's a physical defenseman, another right shot defenseman, exactly what the Leafs have been needing. It's an upgrade on Lyubushkin, that's for sure. So I'm happy with this move specifically, and I love what the Leafs have done with the defense and goaltending so far this offseason. Just something has to give because they got to add up front too.
And we'll have you covered for that all the way through. But looking at it overall now, team is looking a lot different than it did at the end of last season. The defensive core is different. Craig Berube is now here. So at the very least, the team is going to look a lot different. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all of that. And make sure to hit the subscribe button as well. And in the comments, are you happy or are you upset with this contract? Let us know. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.